Hello everyone, it's Crystal from Beautifully Broken Crafts, Hauls, and More. I have a craft video for you guys today. I'm sorry this is late, but we had some things come up in the family. We had a death in the family, unfortunately, so I am behind on everything. So here we are with DIY number one. I'm just taking this old Halloween sign I had on hand from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to peel off. Well, first I'm going to cut off the hanger, the jute twine hanger from it, and then I'm going to peel off that come in first spell, as you see here. Once I get that all taken care of, I will sand it down just to get off any rough spots. And then I'm going to mix the Waverly Moss chalk paint with some white Waverly chalk paint just to make it a little lighter. I didn't want it as light as the celery Waverly chalk paint in green, but I didn't want it as dark as the moss green. And I just do one coat with that. I forgot, before I paint this, I am using my X-Acto knife and this angle ruler from Dollar Tree just to give the board a faux shiplap look. So I'm just scoring the sign where the little cuts already are on the edges to make it look like real shiplap. Now that the sign's all painted, I have it setting aside for it to dry, and I'm taking this galvanized tulip shape, also from Dollar Tree, and I'm just giving that center petal of the tulip a coat of white Waverly chalk paint. I think I end up doing 2 or 3 coats because you can still see the shiny metal through it. And then I'm going to cover the rest of this tulip with some of the really pretty floral vinyl you can get from Dollar Tree, which you guys will see in a few here, how I trace out the tulip and stick that onto the galvanized piece. Anywho, that galvanized piece is set aside to dry. Take a chippy brush, and I'm dry brushing some of the antique Waverly wax on here just to give this board more definition and to make it look like real wood. And then I will also dry brush some of the white Waverly chalk paint over top of it as well with that same paintbrush. I don't even clean it. I just wipe it off on the newspaper I'm using, and then go from there. Here you see I'm just going back over that tulip with more white paint. And once everything had dried, I came back in with that really pretty navy blue floral vinyl I was talking about a few minutes ago. And I'm just going to trace with a pen on the back of the vinyl the outline of the tulip. And I just use that Waverly paint to hold down the vinyl roll, otherwise it will roll back up on you. And then I will cut out the tulip shape and I will apply it to the galvanized piece. Luckily, this vinyl is forgiving, and I had to pick it up and move it over slightly here and there a few times, but it didn't rip or anything. So if you guys end up using this, just take your time with it. It is thin vinyl, but it is easy to work with as well. And once that's applied to that tulip, I just use my finger sander to go down on the edges of this tulip to get off any excess vinyl. And I think I might clean it up too with the X-Acto knife. I'm not 100% sure. Once that's done, I will use 3 tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to glue it to the front of that board that I had painted moss green. And I am going to use a combination of the Fix-All Super Glue along with hot glue to glue the tumbling tower blocks to the tulip, and then those tumbling tower blocks also to the board, and that way it looks like the tulip is a 3D effect on the board. Now that that tulip is adhered to the front of the sign, I'm restringing a piece of the jute hanging. Actually, that came from the tulip originally. And I'm taking some wood beads that I have from Walmart. At first, I just did 3 natural colored beads on either end of this string, but it was too dull to me. So eventually I go back through and I will do 1 natural bead, 1 dark bead, 1 natural bead. As you see here, it's hanging on the kitchen wall. So that is the sign completed. I was going to add some words on it, but I figured less is more in this instance. And now we're going to move on to DIY number 2 that was inspired by this Kirkland's canvas that was $44.99 from them. And I'm going to actually make it look like the real deal. I'm going to use 3 of the wooden mason jars you get from Dollar Tree and 1 of those little long rectangular table signs. So I didn't have 3 wood mason jars that were exactly the same. I had 2 that were the same and then 1 from fall. So I just removed all the foam flowers from those 2 that were the same. I'd use my heat gun to heat up the hot glue from underneath and scrape them off. And I remove any excess glue from all of the signs. I also removed the galvanized piece on that fall mason jar as well. And then I'm just sanding these down so they're smooth and there's no raised edges on them from the glue being scraped off. Once that's done, I will give all 4 of the pieces of these 2 to 3 coats of white Waverly chalk paint. And then that piece you see me sanding right now, once the white Waverly chalk paint dries on it, I'm going to go over it with my Waverly Antique Wax a total of 3 times. And I do end up like painting it, going over it with the Antique Waverly Wax, then with a damp paper towel to wipe it down like a stain. And then I do that 3 times. And then the mason jars will just be white. And I will add some dimension to them with some Waverly mineral chalk paint. And I will eventually outline the lids of them with 2 different paint markers. One is going to be in like a bronzy rose gold color, and the other is like a dark steel color. They're both metallic paint markers I have on hand from Amazon. Now I'm just taking 3 wooden letters I had in my craft stash. I was out of the letter O, so I had to use a Q and cut the little line out of it with my X-Acto knife for the word hop. I'm going to paint them in pastel colors, so the H will be a combination of Cameo Pink by Apple Barrel and white. The O will be a yellow color by Apple Barrel and white. And then the P will be the Martha Stewart purple with white as well. Now I'm just lining these up and seeing which florals I want to use. So I just used a combination of a bunch of wildflower picks I've had in my craft stash from Dollar Tree. And I also used one of the lavender picks I have on my craft stash from Walmart. And I am going to use all of them and glue them to the I'm going to hot glue them to the back of these mason jars to make it look like they're coming out of the tops of the mason jars. And then I will wrap some white cotton twine around the tops of them where the jar lid looks like it's at. And then I will also hang the word hop with the white cotton twine as well from the fronts of these. Now I'm using that long table piece that I had faux stained with that antique wax. And I'm using my measuring tape here just to measure out how far apart the mason jars are going to be glued. And then I use a combination of the Fix All Super Glue and hot glue to adhere these mason jars to the base and also to the sides of one another. Here you see that I just cut out down a piece of white cotton twine off the roll, And I'm going to tie it onto one to each mason jar, and I'm going to make it have a little swag to it. And then I'm going to use a little dot of hot glue on the back of each letter. So each jar will have a letter hanging from the cotton twine to spell the word hop. Here you see I have all those letters on there and hung, and I've lost the footage of me hot gluing those little moss bunnies on the either end of those jars. Those moss bunnies are also from Dollar Tree. And on to DIY number 3. I'm just taking this wooden cross ornament, also from Dollar Tree. I'm going to paint the sides of it all the way around with the white Waverly chalk paint. And then I'm going to cover the front and back of this with that floral vinyl that I used in DIY number 1. I will use my X-Acto knife along with a sanding sponge and finger sander to trim down the excess, and the X-Acto knife to do the same with. I will then use a dull needle to poke the hole back through the top of the cross. I will string some white cotton twine through there, and then I'm going to use a combination of wood beads I have from Walmart and some from Dollar Tree. I will use 2 natural wood beads, a dark wood bead, 2 natural wood beads, a dark blue wood bead, and 2 natural beads again, and so on. And then you will see me make a tassel out of a combination of like a coral pink color yarn from Dollar Tree and another yarn that is sage green and white, also from Dollar Tree, to make a tassel on the other end. To make the tassel, I just used this riser I had on hand from Target, and I wrapped both colors around at the same time, approximately 20 times. Then I'm feeding that dull needle with the cotton twine through it so I can tie a knot there so it's attached to the wood bead garland. I will cut off the other end at the other end of the riser, and then I'm securing this to the garland I created. And then I'll still use a piece of that white cotton twine to make the little head of the tassel as well. I will trim it down with some scissors, and that will be that. Here's my little garland that I created on a stack of books, and I have it with a candle, and then I also staged it with some bunnies as well, just in case. And on to DIY number 4. I was inspired by this Kirkland piece. It was originally $12.99. It is now on sale for $7.99. So I'm just taking this little shadow box type frame from Dollar Tree and popping out the back of it. And then I'm going to use the little miniature wooden ornaments that don't have holes in them. And I'm going to stain a handful of the carrots with the white Waverly wax, along with a handful of the bunnies. And I will wipe them all down with a wet damp napkin as well. And then I will go back over those carrots and paint them with the moss green paint for the leaves, along with pumpkin orange Waverly for the base of the carrot. And for the bunnies, I am going to do them with different color blocks on them, which you will see. So each one will be have a different color block on it. It will be half a color and half wood stain. Now I'm covering the insert that I popped out of that frame with this shiplap peel and stick wallpaper, which is also from Dollar Tree, as were those carrot and bunny ornaments, I forgot to say. And I just traced it on there and am cutting it out. Once I get it stuck to that insert, I'm going to sand down the edges of it, and I'm also going to sand down the actual front of the shiplap just to dull it down, because I didn't want it to have such stark black color to it in the background. Now I'm popping that insert back into the frame, and I will go back over that with some hot glue after we're done adhering these bunnies and carrots to the inserts of this, but I just wanted that frame on there so I knew exactly how much room I had. So I'm doing a pattern of bunny, carrot, bunny, and then carrot, bunny, carrot, and bunny, carrot, bunny. And once I get them lined up how I like them, I'm just using a little bit of hot glue in the back of each ornament to stick them to that insert. And here is that one completed. I think it turned out super cute, and it's something different as well. Let me know what you guys think of all these. And on to the last one, so DIY number 5. I'm just taking this large plastic Dollar Tree egg bunny, and I am going to use the super glue gel on the seam of this to put this together. Once that sets up, I'm going to use a combination of 2 different apple barrel grays, along with Elephant Waverly gray paint and Steel Waverly paint, along with a little bit of white. I'm going to pour it all on that paper plate you guys see over to the side there, and then I'm going to mix it with baking soda to give it a faux concrete texture. And I'm going to go over this bunny a total of 3 times with that. I did have to do this within 2 different days, just so the paint had time to set up and dry overnight. I do want to mention that the second and third coat of the paint I did on here, I did it in like a pouncing or stippling effect versus just straight strokes. Once that was all dried and set up the next day, I did decorate the top of this bunny with like a floral crown. So I just used a whole bunch of florals I had from Dollar Tree. I don't even know what these ones are called, but I used this one to wrap around her head. And then I have a bin full of like loose pieces of greenery and flower buds that weren't used on other projects. So I just pulled from there. And there was a couple white pieces of flower I used, a pink rose, a blue piece of hydrangea, some of the faux foam berries you get on some berry picks from Dollar Tree, along with some greenery. And then I'm also going to put a little bit of the reindeer moss on here, and then use some watered down moss paint, and just use swirling effects on this rabbit as well to make it look like it's been sitting outside for a while. And here is that last DIY completed. Like I said, let me know what you guys think of all these and comment below with which one is your favorite, if any. Thanks so much for spending some time with me and watching this video. I love and appreciate you all so much. Please make sure to subscribe and comment and all that goodness. Talk soon.